Welcome into the LFC Transfer Room. It is a post-match stream. Liverpool 3, Brighton 3, the return of the Premier League action after the international break. A long time since Liverpool last played against Everton. A match so long ago, I kind of forgot about it. It's been, the passing of the Queen, the international break. It has been a very, very long time since we've had Liverpool matches to digest, to analyze. And now I'm ready to go into another international break. I think we can wait after that. I'm delighted to be joined by Anthony and George for today's stream. Anthony, first of all, match aside, I guess, first of all, how are you doing today?
Match aside, I'm doing very well, but I think it's only natural when your team drops points. You sort of feel a bit down afterwards, but yeah, match aside, I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yeah. George, how are you doing?
Match aside, really well. Other than that, a tough one. A tough one.
It's really interesting, because I think how tough, how sad, and frustrating it is can depend on your expectations for the match. I had no idea what to expect going into this, but I did not expect those first 15, 20 minutes, which were brutal. George, I'll toss it to you first. Have you seen a worse opening to a match for Liverpool? It's been a bad few weeks and months, but has it been as bad as it was when they were down 2-0 within 18 minutes?
It was pretty shambolic. I'm not gonna lie. It was really tough to watch. Obviously we were also excited. I personally thought that the break is going to kind of get us back on track. It's kind of good to get away mentally, physically, just get away from Liverpool, get away from the Premier League. You have some time off, go away with the international teams, the national teams, and you're gonna play some games, get your confidence back, and you're gonna come back and we're gonna be the Liverpool that we know.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have that, first even 20, 25, 30 minutes of just, it was completely, I guess, like, my expectations were, we come back, we're going to be the same Liverpool that we were. So I guess my expectations were too high. I was very optimistic. I was, very positive. And just to see that performance, Brighton wanted it more. They were maybe 2-3 steps ahead of us. They were 2-3 steps every single move. The goals that they scored were just we made them look world class just because of how slow we reacted. How, I don't want to say there was no passion at all, but because you never want to question players' passions or anything, but we're just lacking the urgency, lacking that, the quickness and speed and intensity that we're so used to from Liverpool. So it's definitely up there from one of the worst 15, 20 minutes. But I guess that's based, like you said, on what we expect from this Liverpool team under Jurgen Klopp. Because prior to Jurgen Klopp, we've seen pretty bad performances. So, that's what I think.
I think these last few matches has been the most times we've seen the remember the Hodgson days. Remember how bad it used to be. We've kind of seen those comparisons that it's not fun right now, but it's only because the standards are so high. It reminds me of kind of the inception of the channel. Anthony, I'm sure you remember some of our post-match streams from the early 2021 period when we played Brighton at Anfield, no fans, and they beat Liverpool. So for a niece of it, I'll say to you, breathe, but use these as a place to vent, a place to lose those emotions. That's what we did in that tough period. Anthony, I'll kind of toss it to you. General thoughts on the match, kind of where you're at after that one.
Like you just brought up, and they weren't as bad as back then, but back then at least there was some sort of excuse. We all had all our centre backs out, playing midfielders there, defenders in midfield or whatever. Like, it's just a confusing time. But now it's like it's the same old thing every single week. And the first 15, 20 minutes, I thought George hit the nail on the head. There was just no like urgency from any of the players. And Henderson, I'm sorry to keep going in on that guy, but I've been saying this for the past year. He's just useless. And Lipak mentioned about Milner as well. That substitution, what is going through Klopp's head for these subs? Why take Tsimikas off for Milner? What are we like gaining from it? And we're losing, or we're drawing, sorry, 3-3, 10, 15 minutes to go, whatever. And he brings Nunes on with like 2 minutes to go. Like, there's no logic to his team selections either. I thought Henderson should not have started. Diaz 100% should have started. And going into the match, I weren't confident. And I expected it, not going to lie, looking at that starting 11, to go in and get dominated. And I thought we were lucky to even get a point today.
I want to double back, Anthony. Not double back necessarily, but Firmino specifically. For me, it's tough to identify how this performance was because it goes back to the classic trope of bad performance, bad moments, but 2 goals. So he got 2 of the 3 goals Liverpool scored. Was his selection over a Nunes or a Jota a mistake for this match in your eyes? For you, Anthony?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I thought you
sorry,
were
sorry,
asking
sorry.
George. I don't think so because Nunes or Jota didn't have a training session and they played on Tuesday, was it? So I don't think they were sort of ready for this match. But with Diaz, obviously he didn't train either, but he played the day before. So I understand why Firmino started. I predicted him to start, but I don't understand Carvalho starting. Not saying he's a bad player, but Diaz is been our best player this season, and yeah, he should have started. But I don't have any sort of grudges for Firmino starting. Obviously, like you said, he got 2 goals.
George, Anthony's mentioned some of the lineup selections he would have liked to see changed. Was there anything in hindsight that you think Klopp got wrong?
It's tough because Jota, there's rumors that he asked to get subbed out during the midway game because of a slight knock or he was fatigued, and obviously he's just coming back from an injury, so he's going to take him a little bit of time to get into full match fitness. Then you have Darwin and Diaz who played far away journeys, flights and everything. Like it takes a toll on the players, and then Firmino, I don't think he even played for Brazil at all. So it's one of those things where you just dealt with those cards in a way. Obviously, it's not the ideal situation when you come back after a long period and you expect Liverpool to play well. You expect to see those big names to be playing and to be doing well and to kind of kick back Liverpool to what we know. But in a way, it's the only one I would say, again, like Anthony mentioned, is the Fabio Carvalho. He's young player, really good player, but you've had, it's a huge game in a way to kick off October, to put so much pressure on Fabio just to, playing that role against a Brighton team that have done really well this season so far. I think Diaz would have been, I think he would have been fine starting that game. I think that's the only, I mean, Henderson, I guess, but like, does Harvey come in? And then you have Fabio and Harvey, and then you have Trent. You're kind of talking about the whole situation about the right side and defending. So there's always, it's a lot easier to talk about it now. Obviously after it doesn't go our way, but before the game started, there was, I don't want to say excuses of why the certain player started, but it kind of makes sense. It made sense to me why Klopp elected to go with these players. So I don't have anything to say about the lineup. I think maybe a player in, player out, but what they have really made, like we just played so bad as a team the first 20, 25 minutes that it wasn't just a one player, it was just the whole entire team again. So yeah.
That makes sense. And I want to hit on the performance of Trent Alexander-Arnold. We've been off of an international break where he was called up for England, wasn't played in either of their matches. Discussions on, oh, you have this creative player defensively. Is he weak? Is he not weak? For me, love Trent. My criticisms of him are not that I think he's a bad player. It's just that I know how good he can be. And for me, Anthony, it's been frustrating seeing the effort. It's been the foundational thing. You can be bad. You're allowed to be bad. That's you're only human. But it's the jogging back. It's the passiveness at times. I asked after the first 45 minutes in our chat, has there been a worse 45 for Trent, like in a Liverpool shirt? You don't have to answer that directly, Anthony, but kind of what did you see from him at right back?
He wasn't great today. Obviously, like you said, it's far from his what we sort of expect from Trent, and obviously he's got high expectations because he's been performing at top level for so long, and it's only natural for him to drop off maybe 1 or 2 matches, but it's been happening all season, and he has to be dropped. But then you look at our backups, and obviously Ramsey's just come in now. He returned from injury. He's not. I wouldn't say he's good enough to replace him or good enough to start for us regularly. Obviously, we've seen that with Tsimikas and Robertson, but even Tsimikas today, I think he's shown quite a few matches, Tsimikas, where he's just not at that proper quality where Robertson has shown in the past. But Trent in particular, I do think he's had a worst first half performance against, was it Real Madrid 3 years ago, quarterfinals, Vinicius was running ragged. But apart from that, he was really poor today. And even from attacking point of view, crosses weren't reaching anyone. I think he's lucky to get that assist for the goal or whatever it was. And yeah, his crosses weren't even beating the first man sometimes for corners, and like I said, it's a recurring theme for him this season.
You mentioned that early 2021 period, Anthony. I thought we all agreed to just block that out of our minds. That never actually happened. That was just a collective like Mandela effect, and the end of that season never really kind of happened. That was just a COVID weird thing. No, I look. I don't disagree with Anissa here. It's like it's not the forefront of my thought process. Is Southgate was right not selecting him and all that, but I can't help but think that it definitely did impact him. That he's sitting there and he's doubting things, questioning things a little bit. Not saying that it can't come back. I think he's not. People are saying he's being a midfielder. You can change things up. I've thought about it, potentially moving him around, but I don't think you need to make such a foundational change. I think you just need to either work out of it or you need someone to push him. Now, I agree that Ramsey isn't the best, like most ideal option because he's young. Premier League's gonna be new to him. Liverpool's very new to him. So I'm interested to see how that happens. George, I'll kind of offer my perspective that I've had for most of the season, and that has been that this team looks burnt out. It looks like a team that is trying to press, trying to go with this old style, but these players are physically drained, mentally drained, and to me, I don't see a solution. Like when I'm asking you guys, should Diaz have started at left wing rather than Carvalho? Should maybe Milner have played a right back instead of Trent? Those are such small changes when to me, the foundations are a bit more shaky. I'm interested in kind of where you're at, George.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it a few weeks ago where it's not like you're usually when a top team plays, you have one or two players that are slacking, and then everybody else kind of makes up for that performance on match days. And then you go through a season where you have one or two, maybe you have a game off, but then somebody else covers for you, and you don't really notice it. This season, like you mentioned, it's been everyone. I mean, there's one or two, three players that you can say, okay, they've done okay, but have they done okay just because of how bad the overall team is, or is it just because like they're actually playing that well? So it's very, very tough to judge. But I do agree. I think mentally, physically, we're drained. I mean, under Jurgen Klopp, we've been one of the best, one of the top teams in the world. And last season, we played every single game possible. I even believe Jurgen Klopp and the whole staff at Liverpool gave the players like an extra week to 10 days off into preseason. Everybody else started earlier just to kind of have that effect on the players to get the hunger back, to kind of recover, get away a little bit, because it's very tough as a player. Us as fans, we go and we talk about it, and we kind of take away from the fact that Liverpool, those same players, for the most part, have played so many games in the past 4 or 5 years under so much intensity and there's so much pressure day in, day out. And to keep coming back and doing that and repeating that, it's very, very tough. And I think it's only normal to have, I don't want to say a full season of this, but maybe a quarter or a half season. The only thing I would say is I think Jurgen Klopp and I think Liverpool and I think, people within the game should know that this is to be somewhat expected. So in that case, you need to be able to bring in new faces to challenge and to compete and to cover for the players until they come back to, where they were before. Like Manchester City a few years ago when we beat them in the league by 18 points. They had enough. Compared to us, they had an off season. They were mentally, physically, they didn't look anywhere near like us. So it happens to the best of teams, and you go through all these changes and in the kind of transition moments, whatever you want to call them. But it is definitely mental. It is definitely physical, and I think it's very tough for new players, especially the young players like Harvey and Fabio, to come in and everybody expect them to be the game changers, or like Ramsey. He's how old, 17, 18, coming in, new team, new league. Okay, let's challenge Trent, one of the best right backs in the world for the past 5 years, and see what you can do. So it's very, very tough for the young players. And it's also very tough on Darwin to come into a team that's a bit off and not fully firing. So there's not one player, there's not one thing you can blame. I think it's a collective thing. I think it's just a whole, like, we just have to accept the fact that these players are human beings and they cannot keep going 100 miles an hour every single game. But what I would say is, if this whole entire season so far, we have lacked that intensity. Let's forget the Bournemouth game. That was a one-off, whatever you want to call it. But I do think there needs to be some sort of a tactical change. if we cannot compete and be physically and mentally there to press, maybe we shouldn't be pressing nonstop all game and get picked out. Brighton, the first 20-25 minutes, picked through us every single time. And what Liverpool are usually good at is picking out those passes, intercepting those lanes. And then you go on the counter ourselves, and then we try and score, and maybe you have 3v2s, 3v1s, whatever it is. That's where we're usually good at. But right now, every single team is doing that to us just because we're a step or two too slow. So, and the high line doesn't help. There's just a lot of things going on in play. But yeah, we're not there mentally or physically at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's been a tough one. I'm interested for you guys, and I'll pose it to the chat as well. What are the expectations for the rest of the season? Because for me, it was some of these first initial results on the campaign. I began to question: is the title realistic? I thought we would win the title before the season. After the Community Shield, I was believing in everything. I thought Darwin was going to go, break every goal scoring record. Now I'm thinking, me personally, my expectations have seen this top four. Let's just get out of the season. We need a reset. We need to reset, whether that's Jude Bellingham, Moises Caicedo, Christopher Nkunku, kind of seen a shift from these 30-year-old players to these much, much younger guys, just kind of try and bring the gears back. Anthony, for you, I'm interested, are you still buoyant on the title? There's still 31 matches to be played in the Premier League. 31 matches, which is kind of absurd when you put it like that. There's 31 matches in the Premier League left. What are your expectations in the league, the rest of the season, based on what you've kind of seen for the first 10 or so matches on the year?
I think the league's probably done, or it's fair to say it's done. But obviously, anything could happen. Haaland could get a big injury, then like anything could happen. But I think it's pretty much done right now. We've dropped points in 5 matches already. It's not looking good. And I think just on your other point, you're saying like what's sort of the whole cause of this. I think it's sort of a build up from over the years. It's just lack of investment in the squad, which I know we get called moaners or crybabies about it for. But look what's happened. We're not like what's the word, psychologists or whatever, where you predict it. We can see the future. It felt like common sense, man. We could all see it coming from a mile away. Henderson's aging, Milner's aging, all these players are aging. The injury-prone midfielders, and now look at us. Our midfield is really poor, man. Besides Thiago, even Thiago, I don't think he had a good match. Fabinho looks really off it this season. They need backup options. I was just looking through Man City's transfers, over the years. They sign at least one big signing every single summer, and that's what you need. I know you can't you just say, oh, you can't just spend 50 million every big money signings every transfer window, but that's what it is nowadays. That's what you have to do to sort of compete at the top level. And when you compete against Man City, you need at least one signing every summer. Last season we signed Konate, but where was the extra forward depth? We waited till January to sign Diaz, and the only reason we waited till January, we were going to wait till the next season, weren't we? Till this season to sign him, sorry. So we wouldn't have competed for quadruple there, but they just take too long with transfers, and there's a proper lack of investment in this squad, which is why we're falling behind now. And like I said, I think we are in the top four race. And I saw a couple of members in our LFC chat saying the top four's gone as well. But let's be realistic. Other teams will slip up. Yeah.
Reel it in. That's a little much. Okay, look.
Yeah, there's still 31 matches to go, or 30 matches. So, the league I think is done. We can obviously focus on a cup competitions, invest in January. Hopefully, can sign a midfielder then. But yeah, I've got a question as well. Right, what's the point of signing Arthur if you're not gonna play him? I thought he was nailed on start today. Everything coming out from his agent saying, "Oh, he's trained really well. He's match fit," and he was still seeing Henderson. I mean, didn't even see him for 1 minute. So I'll pose that question to either of you two.
Look, here's the thing. I want to head on a comment from Bojack down here saying lack of investment in the squad. This is one of my least favorite trends right now, currently happening in. I need to go to all transfers. I'm going to transfer market right now to dig up Liverpool's transfers year on year because it's a very important point. Darwin Nunez was a big money signing, great signing this summer. I think he can turn out to be a great signing over the next half decade. He'll take a bit of time to develop, but I have no questions about his long-term ability. Carvalho, Ramsey, even Artur. Like the structure of that deal is not terrible. It's not perfect, But even with all that spending, we spent $10 million. This is in dollars because it's defaulting because I'm in America. $10 million net spend this summer. $10 million. You're telling me that just because we spent a ton on Nunez doesn't mean anything, because, and again, this doesn't include all the add-ons. We have spent 10 million euros, 10 million pounds, whatever, on players this summer when we needed midfielder desperately, when we needed more depth. Summer prior, we spent a bit more. The year prior, we only spent on Luis Diaz, and that worked wonders for us. Summer prior, Jota, Thiago. Those are good. This has been nice changing in the gears, but you are beginning to see the knock-on effect of the 1920 window of not signing a midfielder for 2 summers running now. It's not like you can just say, oh, you spent a big amount of money on one player and like that's investment. You also have to recognize that the squad has cracks in spots, and you had to replace things. You didn't fully replace them. And Nunez is the most frustrating one for me because he is got the big price tag. He's got a new country. He's got a brand new team. Liverpool have to tailor their system a bit differently with him because Firmino or Mane as a 10 or as a 9, is vastly different how Nunez plays there. So not only do players have to work differently with him, he is dying for a creative 10 or an Elliott or Carvalho just below him to help create for him. But we're not building him that. It's been frustrating to see, and I'm defending you there, Anthony, because the investment has been poor, and we are one of the richest clubs in the world. If you're telling me that you can only afford $10 million this summer, it's a joke. I tossed in my anger during halftime. We were talking in the chat. I just tossed out a stupid theory that I have. Switch to a 4-4-2. Play Fabinho at right back where you play for Monaco. You play Trent right mid. So almost eliminate the defensive worries for him. Pivot of Arthur and Thiago. Diaz left mid. Nunez and Salah up front. Anthony, talk me out of why that would not be a better overall outfit, better system potentially than what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, because it's not 2005, right? I think that formation's gone past it. But 4-2-3-1 could be interesting. I think you could ask George about that, to be fair. 4-2-3-1. Are you a fan of that one?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of the 4-2-3-1. I mean, to me, if I listen, Bobby Firmino is one of my favorite players. I've stated that before. I'm a huge fan of what Bobby brings to the Liverpool team. Not only, forget the 2 goals today. I think the link up I think that's exactly what Liverpool need with Darwin. And I think Darwin and Bobby can complement each other very well just because they're completely opposite players. So that right away solves the problem the Jurgen Klopp has with the number 10 position. And he's tried it 1 or 2 times. I think he tried it against Everton in the second half. I thought we were really bright the first 10, 15 minutes. And then once he made the substitution with Milner going at right back, that's when it went downhill. But I think it's a really good formation. I just think the biggest problem that we have right now, I think, is teams. The gap between Fabinho, Henderson, and Van Dijk and Matip or Konate, whoever it is in the other center back position, is too big of a gap. And once the ball's played in behind, like today, 2-3 little touches on top of the box, they score a goal. 2-3 little touches, they score a goal. I know we can blame Henderson for Casado. They jumped and kind of touched Henderson on the back and whatever. He kind of stopped. But it's that space where you need Fabinho to just sit and protect the 2 center backs, because right now we're getting too caught up into pressing. We even saw in the first 15 minutes where Salah's looking back, nobody's helping him. Thiago's looking at Tsimikas like, why are you not stepping up? There's a lot of miscommunication and a lot of things that are not going well for Liverpool, like on the communication part and the pressing. We're just not on the same page. But I like the 4-2-3-1. I'm not so sure about the 4-4-2. If we're getting picked out right now with, playing 2 or 3 midfielders in the middle, imagine with just Thiago and Arthur, who we haven't even seen play yet. So I wouldn't. I mean, at this point, can it really hurt? I mean, we're getting picked off anyway, so might as well try something new.
There's a lot of interesting things that could happen. I don't anticipate Klopp switching things around, which, to better or worse, Klopp is 6 wise principles. He's a stubborn guy. It has its positives and its negatives. Next 5 matches, I'll include all of them, are very, very interesting. Rangers at home in the Champions League. Arsenal at the Emirates, then Rangers again, the reverse fixture in the Champions League, then City at home, then West Ham at home. That is the Rangers matches, I think we should, those would be easier. You can probably play a bit of rotation there. But I would love to see someone like this trialed. Carvalho is not a winger. Don't try and force that just yet. He played as a 10 for Fulham. Play him as a 10. He had Mitrovic up front. I think he would benefit really well with Nunez. Try him against Rangers. Try and see if the Champions League lights bring out someone in Darwin. Maybe you can translate that going forward. I'll jump past the Rangers match because Champions League football can almost be a little different. And kind of one of the last things I wanted to hit on was for that Arsenal match. How nervous are you, Anthony? Because that's a match at the Emirates. How are you feeling kind of 8 days out from that one?
You know what? I'm never going to matches thinking we're going to lose. Like, even we could be on the worst form ever, and I won't predict us to lose. But Arsenal and City 2 weeks in a row, form Arsenal on is incredible, and I don't know, man. I don't want to predict us to lose, but I think we're going to get a really tough match there. Hopefully, we can get the 3 points, obviously, but Arteta ball is just a different gravy, man. At the moment, against Spurs, they battered them, man. It was like, it was the same Spurs realistically from last season, and we couldn't break them down or anything. We had to rely on a lucky deflection for Diaz to score, but they're crazy, man. The way Arsenal attack a defence, imagine that's Tottenham's defence. Imagine what they're going to do to Liverpool's defence at the moment. Trent's going to get caught out against Martinelli. Jesus looks incredible, and Saka as well, but don't just put us down. We've still got attacking quality. Hopefully, let's just hope we see some change. Sure, to be fair, we scored 3 goals today. If you told me we was going to score 3 goals before the match, I thought we'd have won. But it's just defensively, we look a shambles at the moment.
I want to read a quote really quick that just came out from Klopp. Neil Jones tweeted us about a minute ago. Jurgen Klopp admits it was horrible to watch Brighton's attackers picking up space between the lines today, and says he even wasn't 100% convinced his side would see out the game at 3-2. That to me is those are red flags. Those are alarm bells going off. The mentality monsters that we once were feels like it's a little weaker than it once was. George, kind of looking forward. That Arsenal match, we're obviously a little bit out from that. They looked very good. They'll have to deal with Europa League football in the midweek. We'll have 2 extra days of rest. Very, very small factors considering that the standard of football being played by the 2 sides is widely disparity.
Oh, we're gonna go to the Emirates and win. No.
Jota should start. That is his favorite spot, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I honestly think I don't want to say make or break games, just because we're early on, but we're almost like a third through the season, so it's kind of weird talking about all this. But in a way, that game is going to tell me. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I still think we're in the title race. I still think that there's still a possibility. Like, we're a game behind right now, so obviously the table looks a bit off. So if we go to the Emirates and get a result, get the 3 points, I think that whole shift, the whole narrative, just everything that we've done in the past like 8 or 9 games goes out the window. It's a fresh start, fresh everything. I know I would have liked today to be the first day of that, but I really like watching Liverpool against Manchester City in the Community Shield. I know it's a Community Shield, it's not the Premier League, but we play completely different to what we've been playing so far. So if somehow, I don't know what went wrong. I don't know what, like, did they party too much? I don't know what it was, but just the way I saw Liverpool playing that match against Manchester City, who obviously are title contenders, if we can put some sort of performance like that, Jurgen Klopp, he has to change something. Like, I know he's very stubborn. He usually doesn't, but that quote right there just tells me that he himself doesn't even trust his own players at the moment. So confidence is down, everything is down, but I don't know. I'm too optimistic. I'm positive. I predict the Liverpool win at Arsenal and kicks us off into the title race, and we go from there. But yeah.
Well, look, I mean, at the moment, Liverpool have played 7 matches. Most other sides have played 8. They're 11 points off of Arsenal at the top of the table with a match in hand. I'm not going to say the title's over after 7 matches, like over. I think I personally think it's a really tough ask to get back into it. But the next 2 weeks are really going to be the ones that decide everything, because if they are able to get a result against Arsenal, well, Rangers first, obviously you can't skip ahead and get past Rangers, because the worst part of all this potentially, and there's been a lot of worst parts, is we're not a lock to get out of our Champions League group. Like we had the defeat to Napoli, we're off of a win, but like these are the two matches you need to win. You need to beat Rangers in both of these, because the head-to-heads against Ajax and Napoli, you don't want too much pressure on those, because you think its mentality continues to regress. That would be the ultimate, like, I would have absolutely no hope for the new year in 2023 if we were knocked out of the Champions League before the World Cup. I'd be like, what is the point of returning to club football for the season after the World Cup? Let's just kind of like disband, go our separate ways. We'll just see you in 2023, 24. I'll get you guys last thoughts on the match going forward. Anthony, kind of just last thoughts.
I think my last thoughts are Henderson needs to stop starting for us. Arthur needs to start, or Elliot if he wants to play. Although, hot take, I'm still not Elliot's biggest fan. I'm not sure what he's providing on that pitch. And Diaz has to start the next match. Same with Jota and Nunes. He has to give them more minutes. And I don't want to say I'm cop out, but I'll tell you what, I'm swaying toward that direction. Not gonna lie, just because it's becoming a recurring theme for the past few seasons. Really, obviously we had a nice season last year, couldn't push it over the line, but this feels like an inevitable failure this season. Not gonna lie.
George, last thoughts on the match going forward.
Frustrating match. I think we need to change the formation, tweak some things around. I like to see Darwin get more minutes, 100%. The club doesn't usually like to, bring in players and play them right away, but we need that spark. We need the presence going in behind. I think him, Jota, however he wants to play the front three. Obviously, Salah is 100%, Diaz is 100%, so it's kind of difficult to pick out between Darwin and Jota or Bobby after like 2 goals today. But I think you change it into 4-2-3-1. You try Bobby as a 10 and give Darwin and Jota, let him run in behind, let him cause havoc, because right now everything is in front of the opponent. There's absolutely no danger in behind. The way we play, we get the ball wide to Trent or to Tsimikas or to Robertson, whoever it is, and we put the ball in the box. And how did Darwin score a goal over the weekend? Suarez crosses the ball into the box, Darwin heads it in. That's literally what Darwin does. So he needs to be in that box. Heading the ball is one of his strengths. So, and another thing is when Darwin does play for Liverpool, he plays wide. So that's something completely different for me as well. I don't know why that is, but he needs to play through the middle. Let him play where he's used to. Let him be in the box at all times. Let him run. Let him use his pace, like he did against Fulham when he came on, and like what he did against Manchester City. So, yeah, final thoughts right there.
Well, George, Anthony, thank you very much for your time on the stream here today. A frustrating one in the return from international football. We have a nice stretch until the World Cup. So in terms of, this would be a great time, just of pure entertainment if Liverpool were able to be competitive, be a threat. I trust Jurgen. I trust the players to get it around, but there's a lot of problems I need to sort out. So hopefully they'll be able to do that before the match on Tuesday. Make sure you subscribe to the page if you're not already. We're going to have coverage all season long. But for Anthony and George, I've been Jack for the LFC Transfer Room. We'll catch you next time.